Hey, good evening. Welcome to Freedom, Speech, and You. So, how are you doing this evening? I am still collecting a couple of things, but good to see you, Benny Loco, Nick Rich, 56, Cran Baruni, and Aaron West. And we expect others as they realize that we're on the air. Let's see. Might help if we tell them we're on the air. So hang on one second while I do that. Talk amongst yourselves. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right, that's done. Okay. So, title for tonight's show indicates that we do want to honor the deceased from the Pulse nightclub who died 7 years ago. 7 years ago this evening, they went to enjoy themselves and live their lives, and they would not live to enjoy another day because these are the people that passed away that evening at Pulse nightclub. So make that bigger. So this is on the Orlando website, and this is from that 7 years ago. And these are the names: Stanley Almodovar III, 23 years of age. Amanda L. Alvear, 25 years of age. Oscar A. Acarena Montero, 26 years of age. Rodolfo Alia, 33 years of age. Antonio Devon Brown, 29 years of age. Daryl Roman Burt II, 29 years of age. Angel Candelero Padro, 28 years of age. Juan Chavez Martinez, 25 years of age. Luis Daniel Condi, 39 years of age. Corey James Connell, 21 years of age. Tevin Eugene Crosby, 25 years of age. Deconia Deidre Drayton, 32 years of age. Simone Adrian Carrillo Fernandez, 31 years of age. Leroy Valentin Fernandez, 25 years of age. Mercedes Marisol Flores, 26 years of age. Peter Omni Gonzalez Cruz, 22 years of age. Juan Ramon Guerrero, 22 years of age. Paul Terrell Henry, 41 years of age. Frank Hernandez, 27 years of age. Miguel Angel Honorado, 30 years of age. Javier Jorge Reyes, 40 years of age. Jason Benjamin Josephat, 19 years of age. Eddie Gemeralde Justice, 30 years of age. Anthony Luis Lorendo Diesla, 25 years of age. Christopher Andrew Liamonen, 32 years of age. Alejandro Barrios Martinez, 21 years of age. Brenda Marquez McCool, 49 years of age. Gilberto R. Silva Menendez, 25 years of age. Kimberly Jean Morris, 37 years of age. Akira Monet Murray, 18 years of age. Luis Omar Ocasio Capo, 20 years of age. Geraldo A. Ortiz Jimenez, 25 years of age. Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera, 36 years of age. Joel Ramon Panagua, 32 years of age. Juan Carlos Mendez Perez, 35 years of age. Enrique L. Rios Jr., 25 years of age. Juan Carlos Nieves Rodriguez, 27 years of age. Javier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado, 35 years of age. Christopher Joseph Sanfeliz, 24 years of age. Yelmari Rodriguez Sullivan, 24 years of age. Edward Sotomayor Jr., 37 years of age. Shane E. Evan Tomlinson, 33 years of age. Martin Benitez Torres, 33 years of age. Jonathan A. Comogre Vega, 24 years of age. Juan Pablo Riviera Velasquez, 37 years of age. Luis Sergio Vielma, 22 years of age. Frankie Jimmy De Jesus Valaquez, 50 years of age. Louise Daniel Wilson Leon, 37 years of age. And Gerald Arthur Wright, 31 years of age. We remember them all. Just a moment of silence for them. So on Friday, Jack Smith gave his statement on the Trump indictment. And wait till I can get, okay, I can skip the ads. Gave his statement on the Trump indictment.
Good afternoon. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, as well as participating in a conspiracy to obstruct justice. This indictment was voted by a grand jury of citizens in the Southern District of Florida, and I invite everyone to read it in full to understand the scope and the gravity of the crimes charged. The men and women of the United States intelligence community and our armed forces dedicate their lives to protecting our nation and its people. Our laws that protect national defense information are critical to the safety and security of the United States, and they must be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk. Adherence to the rule of law is a bedrock principle of the Department of Justice, and our nation's commitment to the rule of law sets an example for the world. We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone. Applying those laws, collecting facts, that's what determines the outcome of an investigation. Nothing more and nothing less. The prosecutors in my office are among the most talented and experienced in the Department of Justice. They have investigated this case hewing to the highest ethical standards, and they will continue to do so as this case proceeds. It's very important for me to note that the defendants in this case must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. To that end, my office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused. We very much look forward to presenting our case to a jury of citizens in the Southern District of Florida. In conclusion, I would like to thank the dedicated public servants of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, with whom my office is conducting this investigation and who work tirelessly every day upholding the rule of law in our country. I'm deeply proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. Thank you very much.
Why Florida, sir? Why did you decide to bring the case in Florida?
So you see, he made his statement. He didn't take any questions. There is no need for him to do that. Good evening and welcome to WW and to Jolie. Good to have you here. So same thing. Okay. It's interesting to see what Bill Barr had to say about the indictment.
What about this chief argument that comes up for the president's allies and his legal team that this should have been handled under the Presidential Records Act, not this Espionage Act charge and other federal statutes that were used here?
Well, it started out under the Presidential Records Act and the archives trying to retrieve documents that Trump had no right to have. But it quickly became clear that what the government was really worried about were these classified and very sensitive documents. I was shocked by the degree of sensitivity of these documents and how many there were, frankly. And so the government's agenda was to get those, protect those documents and get them out. And I think it was perfectly appropriate to do that. It was the right thing to do. And I think the counts under the Espionage Act that he willfully retained those documents are solid counts. Now, I do think we have to wait and see what the defense says and what proves to be true. But I do think that even half what Andy McCarthy said, which is if even half of it is true, then he's toast. I mean, it's a very detailed indictment. And it's very, very damning. And this idea of presenting Trump as a victim here, or a victim of a witch hunt, is ridiculous. Yes, he's been a victim in the past. Yes, his adversaries have obsessively pursued him with phony claims. And I've been at his side defending against them when he is a victim. But this is much different. He's not a victim here. He was totally wrong. That he had the right to have those documents. Those documents are among the most sensitive secrets that the country has. They have to be in the custody of the archivist. He had no right to maintain them and retain them. And he kept them in a way at Mar-a-Lago that anyone who really cares about national security their stomach would churn at it.
So you don't obviously agree with him all the way. His claims that he's protected the former president in the past when things weren't true about him, because everything that's been said about Trump has been true. I mean, Hillary could tell you that. But certainly, even Bill Barr can't, stand up for Trump now because of what's in these reports. Hey, Trucker John, welcome. Meanwhile, we've got Kara Lake out there. So and about this video, Politics Girl retweeted this video after Ron Filipowski put it out there. Politics Girl said, here's the thing. You can't be a good Republican anymore if you continue to support this party. You're guilty by association. Your leaders are counting on you to choose violence over rule of law and Trump over America. And here's your example right here from Carrie Lake.
I have a message tonight for Merrick Garland and Jack Smith and Joe Biden. And the guys back there in the fake news media, you should listen up as well. This one's for you. If you want to get to President Trump, you're going to have to go through me, and you're going to have to go through 75 million Americans just like me. And I'm going to tell you, yep, most of us are card-carrying members of the NRA. That's not a threat. That's a public service announcement.
No, honey, that's a threat. That is an out and out threat, and you should be put away for even thinking things like that. But unfortunately, you know, political talk lets you say pretty much anything you want. I'd like to get right into what Glenn Kirshner had to say about the Trump indictment. So give me a second. Let me get this past the ad. And we are blessed to be able to show Glenn Kirshner's Justice Matters program with approval from Glenn. Oops. Share that one instead. Okay.
If you read this 44-page indictment of Donald Trump, you probably reached the same conclusion that I did. Donald Trump is done. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, I have now made my way through the recently released 44-page indictment of Donald Trump and his one named co-defendant, Walt Nauta. And it is breathtaking in just how obvious, just how transparent, and just how nefarious Trump's classified documents crimes are. Let me just take you through a few short passages, give you a flavor of what the evidence shows Donald Trump did. So let's start with, what kind of information did Donald Trump steal from the White House and take with him and unlawfully conceal down at Mar-a-Lago? Well, in the boxes were documents regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military, and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. Where did Donald Trump store these boxes of highly classified national security and national defense information? Well, among other places, he kept them in a ballroom, in a bathroom, in a shower, in office space, in his bedroom, in a storage room, and of course we know, in his desk drawers, in his office at Mar-a-Lago. And what did Donald Trump do with some of this highly sensitive national security information? Well, some of it he took up with him to his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, took it from Mar-a-Lago, and he showed it to a writer and a publisher and two members of his staff, none of whom possessed security clearances. And Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't. But this is still a secret. This is 6 months after he left office. He's been incessantly telling us that he declassified everything, either with his mind or automatically when he removed it from the White House. Here he is on an audio recording saying, well, I could have declassified it when I was president, but I didn't, and now I can't. But he is sharing it casually and to the detriment of our national security with all kinds of folks who are wandering through his office at Bedminster. Who else did he show some of our nation's most closely guarded secrets to? In August or September 2021 at the Bedminster Club, Trump showed a representative of his political action committee, who did not possess a security clearance, a classified map related to a military operation, and told the representative that he should not be showing it to the representative and that the representative should not get too close to the national security material Trump was compromising and showing to a member of his political action committee. And friends, here's a summary of just some of what Donald Trump did, just some of his criminal conduct set out in this indictment. Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and grand jury investigations and conceal his continued retention of classified documents by, among other things, suggesting that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI and grand jury that Trump did not have documents called for by the grand jury subpoena, by directing defendant Waltine Nauta, Donald Trump's named co-defendant in this indictment, directing him to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorneys and the FBI and the grand jury, by suggesting that his attorney hide or destroy documents called for by the grand jury subpoena, and by causing a certification to be submitted to the FBI and grand jury falsely representing that all documents called for by the grand jury subpoena had been produced, while knowing that, in fact, not all such documents had been produced.
Zapier's automation is the easiest way to keep your pipeline in motion. Connect over 5,000 apps, scale your work.
And let's end with this passage in the indictment and then talk about Donald Trump's lawyers, former lawyers. In sum, between May 23rd, 2022 and June 2nd, 2022, before Trump Attorney One's review of Trump's boxes in the storage room, Nauta, at Trump's direction, moved approximately 64 boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence and brought to the storage room only approximately 30 boxes. Neither Trump nor Nauta informed Trump Attorney One of this information. In other words, when Trump's attorneys, Attorney One, Attorney Two, Attorney Three, as we'll discuss in a minute, were searching for classified documents so they could comply with the subpoena and return them to the federal government, provide them to the grand jury as the subpoena required, Donald Trump and his co-defendant, Walt Nauta, were hiding the boxes from Trump's lawyers. They hid 64 boxes of documents, of classified information and national defense information from Donald Trump's own lawyers, who are trying to find all the classified documents and comply with the subpoena, return them to the federal government. They let them look through 30 boxes, but they hid 64 boxes from Trump's own lawyers. And then they caused Trump's lawyers to certify that all classified documents had been returned, knowing full well they hid 64 boxes from those very same lawyers who executed that certification. Friends, some of the most sharply incriminating witnesses against Donald Trump at trial will be his own lawyers. They are referred to throughout this indictment as Trump Attorney 1, Trump Attorney 2, Trump Attorney 3. And they directly incriminate their former client, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump won't be convicted on the testimony of, a bunch of angry Democrats, as he always likes to say. He will be convicted. Let me say that again. He will be convicted in large part on the testimony of his own attorneys. And here's the other thing. The obstruction of justice and the conspiracy to obstruct by hiding these boxes, these documents from the feds, from the grand jury, and from his own attorneys. The conspiracy between Donnie and Walt, Trump and Nauta is so transparent and so brazen and so easily proved and so criminal and clumsy that it's like Donald Trump took a page out of the playbook, conspiracy to obstruct justice for dummies, and he followed that manual. I urge you, friends, if you've read no other legal documents in connection with the legal hellscape that is Donald Trump and the endless crimes he's committed against the people of the United States in violation of our federal laws, please sit down and read this 44-page document, this indictment, because it leaves no room for dispute. Anybody who is willing to engage in a fact-based analysis and reach a conclusion about whether Donald Trump committed grave crimes against the United States will be persuaded by this sworn document, this indictment that sets out the evidence supporting the conclusion that Donald Trump committed crimes. And of course, his legal team just quit or they were fired, and he's got to get new lawyers now. This has got to be legal team number 18 because he keeps burning through them. Well, let me end where I started today, friends. Donald Trump is done. Donald Trump is done. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again soon.
So that was Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner, and you just cannot give a more incisive, precise take on that. That 44-page document just really lays it all out there. Now, you're wondering who he's talking about. Glenn also wrote up an article for MSNBC. So this guy, Nauta, Walt Nauta's indictment is a warning to Trump's Mar-a-Lago mafia. Good evening, Jim. It's been clear from day one that Trump did not pack up and personally transport all those boxes to Florida. He had help. So Glenn Kirshner wrote this column. See if I can make it bigger for you to read it. Okay, so Glenn Kirshner wrote up this column on the same day he released that video, June 9th. When news broke Thursday that special counsel Jack Smith, the decided to indict former President Donald Trump over his classified document scandal, one of the most intriguing questions was, would Smith indict only Trump, or would he charge a conspiracy that includes the people around Trump who assisted, facilitated, or were directly complicit in Trump's alleged crimes? In other words, would Smith try to take down the entire Mar-a-Lago mafia? Next. As of Friday, the answer to that last question appears to be yes. Not only has the former president been charged with conspiracy to obstruct, but also the Justice Department has indicted his aide, Walt Nauta. According to the Washington Post, one of the jobs of Trump's personal aide and general gopher has been to move and carry cardboard boxes in which Trump likes to keep mementos and papers. Nauta has been a subject of Smith's interest since reportedly making contradictory statements about whether he moved boxes of classified documents around Mar-a-Lago. Might Nauta turn out to be the one of the capos of the Mar-a-Lago mafia? It may sound funny, but with each breaking legal development, it seems like Trump's resort in Florida has a good bit in common with the admittedly more violent Worlds of Corleone compound from The Godfather, or the Bada Bing Club from The Sopranos. Now, most of you are probably familiar with the Godfather movie. I hope you are. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the Bada Bing Club from The Sopranos. But in The Sopranos, the Bada Bing Club was the strip bar scene where the gangsters always got together and cooked up all of their ideas because, you know, they're in a place where supposedly you can't hear what they're talking about. Of course, we can as the viewers of the TV show. Trump sees to surround himself with people willing to do his dirty work only to see those people fall away one after another. Yes, he does. We know that there were repeated efforts by officials from the National Archives to convince Trump to return the documents he had taken from the White House. Yes, we do, because we've heard all of those stories in the news, and we've heard them documented on other talk shows, including Hal Sparks. Later, FBI and DOJ officials traveled to Mar-a-Lago in attempts to cajole Trump to return the documents. They did that several times. The Trump staffers turned over 15 boxes to the National Archives and a further 38 documents to the FBI and DOJ. The government efforts to reclaim all documents were to no avail. But as we just heard in the other video, Trump openly admitted that he kept some documents and that he had time to declassify those as president, but didn't. So he knew that he was keeping documents that had not been officially declassified. After the meeting with FBI and DOJ personnel, the article continues, Trump's lawyers had certified through the agencies that a diligent search had not found any more classified documents. Yes, we heard all that in the video just moments ago. You know, he moved these things around. He had his lawyers fooled. He had them certify these things. You know, not knowing any better, they had to say what they believed to be true. But 2 months later, on August 8, 2022, the article continues, FBI agents executed a search warrant and found an enormous stash of additional classified materials, some located in Trump's desk drawers. On that August day, Mar-a-Lago was quite literally a crime scene. In the classified documents probe, it's been clear from day one that Trump did not pack up and personally transport all those boxes to Florida. He had help, lots of help. Anytime prosecutors even get a hint of multiple people being involved in concerted criminal activity, they launch or expand an investigation to determine the nature of the conspiracy, what crimes might be the subject of criminal agreement, and who any co-conspirators might be. Yes, Jim, that is true. The fact is, no documents, classified or not, should have been kept by him. All his docs from time in office are to be surrendered on the Presidential Records Act. And yet he asserts that that act is the reason why he can keep them, which is definitely contrary to the truth. Not everybody, I'm going to summarize this, not everyone who assisted Trump in taking these documents would be culpably involved. Yes, because there would be some people that might think that he had the authority to take the documents and they would just do what he told them to do. And they wouldn't know what was in the boxes that they were carrying. They wouldn't assume that they were carrying things that they shouldn't be carrying. But nevertheless, they are witnesses, as the article says. Yes, because they could say, well, we carried this many boxes. So there's the chance for them to testify about how many boxes they transported and when. Glenn continues, one of the challenging tasks for Smith has been to determine who was innocently involved, who was culpably involved, and who was so culpably involved that they should be charged as part of criminal conspiracy. He says that conspiracies are investigated from the bottom up, with smaller criminal fish being held accountable first, flipped against the larger criminal fish until prosecutors reach the pinnacle of the organization's boss. And we have a lot of people, co-conspirators in this crime saga, he says. The Washington Post reports that Trump staffers at Mar-a-Lago rehearsed the moving of the boxes in apparent preparation for when the feds came and called in for the classified documents. And one day before the DOJ and FBI officials arrived, Trump's foot soldiers put into plan moving the boxes to keep them from being discovered, only to have them searched by search warrant 2 months later. Glenn asks, will these box concealers be swept up in conspiracy indictment, or might they have already flipped against Trump or others who are higher up on the criminal food chain? Now, we saw Glenn talk earlier on the video. He said that the lawyer's testimony will be a key thing here. So Trump attorney Evan Cochran testified to a grand jury in Washington about his inaccurate certification, swearing that all classified documents had been returned to the Fed. Cochran made an audio recording. So Trump was asking him about the need to comply with the subpoena, and Cochran affirmed he needed to. So he may be the devastating witness against Trump at a highly criminal trial. Glenn says here that some lawyers have turned against other lawyers, with lawyer Tim Palatori accused current Trump lawyer Boris Epstein of interfering with searches of Trump's properties designed to find all remaining classified documents so they could be returned to federal authorities. Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has testified in the grand jury. From an investigative perspective, this is an earth-shattering development. Meadows was sitting at Trump's knee during times that will be of keen interest to Smith, the events leading up to Jan 6th, the attack itself, and most pertinently, the alleged removal of classified documents from the White House, What we don't know is the conditions under which Meadows testified, whether, for example, he had appeared on the grant of immunity or pursuant to a sealed guilty plea that required him to cooperate fully and truthfully with Smith's investigations. But when the boss's chief of staff is essentially ratted out the boss, the end game is clearly in sight. Smith has built this case in classic style, reeling in person after person in Trump's orbit. Only the biggest fish is yet to be caught. So, we see that these people that supported Trump's efforts to hide the boxes are being brought in. Going to go to some tweets. Some tweets that are just interesting tonight. This is one that interests me. Ideally, you want the president of the United States, the mayor of Crazy Town, and the village idiot to be three different people. This apparently is the judge who will preside over the Trump trial. Eileen Cannon will preside over the Trump documents trial. How much should we be worried, writes Jeff Tiedrich. Judge Cannon is, not to put too fine a point on this, a Trump-loving dipshit. He says, you no doubt remember Eileen Cannon. She was the judge who handled the lawsuit filed by Donald Trump challenging the FBI search of his shitty Gulf motel. Cannon, an inexperienced far-right ideologue who was appointed by Trump, did everything she could to tip the scales of justice in favor of Donald, pretty much derailing the investigation to the point where the 11th Circuit intervened. And please excuse the legal jargon here, told her to sit the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Well, hold on to your hats because the big wheel of Palm Beach justice has been spun and it landed on Judge Cannon. She's been chosen at random because that's the way it's done to preside over the Trump documents trial. How much should we be worried? She's a Trump-loving dipshit, so how badly can she fuck this up? That's a question for us. We're not going to be able to read the rest of the thing because they want us to subscribe. But that does present an interesting thing, How much is she going to do? Teacher says, if you were shitting bricks because Hillary Clinton mishandled 3 emails that weren't even classified at the time she had them, wait until you hear about the guy who stuffed his Gulf motel bathroom with boxes upon boxes of stolen war plans and nuclear secrets. Holy fucking shit. He says Donald Trump could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and sell state secrets to our adversaries and not lose any supporters. But tell me again how this isn't some fucked up cult. What in the actual fuck? Yes. What kind of shithole party circles the wagons around a confessed nuclear spy? And he says, it's Saturday and it's time for This Week in Stupid. Mike's on a bike and so much more. Thanks for reading and do sign up for my free newsletter. So you see Mike Pence is out there on a bike. He said, holy fucking shit, Donald Trump stashed stolen nuclear secrets in a greasy bathroom that could be accessed by anyone at any time. And then out of the clear blue, Bonesaw Arabia hands $2 billion to Jared Kushner. Come fuck on. Do I have to draw you a picture here or what? Your reminder that reality winners swiped one document and was swiftly carted off to prison. No negotiations. So spare me your whining about how unfairly the fluorescent tangerine jackass with the bathroom full of nuclear secrets has been treated. It's just interesting. I thought we could read the article. There was a possibility there, but I see, Jim, you're not really interested. So let's see what happened on Face the Nation today, since there was no Meet the Press episode today on account of NBC having sports on. So they discussed the 2024 race, and it's a couple-minute video. I don't know if they'll give me a copyright strike for this. We'll see. Hopefully not.
More numbers. Give us the top line number of the Republican field right now.
So Donald Trump is still on top comfortably and in two important ways. One, very simply, in vote choice. He's at 61% when people say who they would support right now. But in another very important way, in consideration. That's when people can pick multiple candidates, one more if they like, because this is a point in the campaign where they're evaluating things more generally, and he's up in that consideration too.
So there's not a special second candidate that's hiding in the wings according to consideration. But don't answer that, because I want to ask you, in terms of what the former president is talking about, is it what people want to hear?
No. Sure, in a short answer. They don't want to hear him talk about 2020. They don't want to hear him talk about himself or the past. They want to hear him talk about plans for the country.
Okay, I'm going to pause that for a second. I'm going to try to find some videos for the way that these candidates have reacted, but it seems like most of them have reacted in support of Trump. I know that Chris Christie didn't, but it seems like a lot of them have reacted in support of Trump in regard to the, investigation, which is interesting, but it just shows that they have no backbone. They don't want to go against Trump's voters. So, there's that. There's very few of them that will go against Trump's voters to try to stand out on their own.
And yet, he's still leading.
Yep. Amy, what do you make of that in this current context where there's the first indictment of a former federal indictment?
I think there are two things. One is if the leadership of the party and his own rivals are echoing what Trump is saying about this indictment, this is politically motivated, this is rigged, this is a witch hunt, why should we believe that voters are going to feel any differently? So they're kind of all following each other in this. And the other one about why are they not talking about the number one issue? If you talk to the folks in and around, say, the DeSantis campaign, they believe the only way to go and chip away at Trump's support is to go at him from the right on some of these cultural issues.
Yeah.
That's where they see him as most vulnerable. And when you talk about the economy,
That is true of DeSantis. He does try to paint himself to the right of Trump. He tries to say that certain things that Trump did, in particular the COVID-19 policies and shutting things down, he tries to say that he didn't do or want any of that done, even though he did do all of that, and he did support it, and he did support vaccination because he knew that he had to get the elderly people vaccinated, because if he didn't get the elderly people vaccinated, he might have lost his base and he might not have won the election. But he's a revisionist who tries to tell you that he didn't do that and he didn't push for people to get vaccinated. And he just tries to paint himself to the right of Trump. And it's crazy. He just thinks that there's masses of people out there that support him that have an extremely short memory.
voters overwhelmingly, I'm sure you've seen this in your polling already, Anthony, voters in the Republican primary think that Trump did a great job on the economy. So trying to out-economy him is going to be very difficult.
Of course they think he did good in the economy because they think that everything that happened while he was president was his doing, but that's not so. A lot of what happened while he was president was the doing of the Democrats, because we don't sabotage the economy just to get reelected, unlike the Republicans. I don't know if there's anything different in this. I haven't watched this video. I just pulled these direct from Twitter. So let's see if they discuss anything different in this. But this is Face the Nation discussing the Trump indictment.
What stands out to you now that you've read this indictment?
I think what stands out, obviously, is the magnitude of detail in this indictment. It's not only that you're dealing with 31 counts under the Espionage Act, which simply means the unlawful, willing retention of classified information or even unclassified information that would hurt the defense of the United States and aid our enemies. It's the detail of a speaking indictment. We have to remember that much of this indictment.
Okay, so basically we're seeing why it took so long to get the indictment, because there's so much involved in it. It is very thorough. And, you know, that's a key thing here, is that it is completely thorough and that there's, you know, so much involved, so much detail, so much information, so much evidence. So that's good. We may not have been happy with the wait, but that's good.
John, is to educate not only ultimately a court and jury, but it's really to educate the public. Much of this indictment, in terms of the detail, may not even come into evidence in terms of what's admissible or not in the course of a trial. What also strikes me, John.
So as she just said, the indictment is to educate the public on exactly what Trump is being charged with. And so you got that, you know. Of course, you're going to have the supporters who won't pay attention to any part of it. They think it's all cooked up. They think it's all a attack on him. But the rest of us, you know, some of us have totally wanted this from the beginning because we're liberals. And some are people that may not be involved in politics at all, from election to election. And now they get to see on Tuesday exactly what's going on.
Is the overwhelming detail leaves the Trump legal team with real need to have powerful motions to dismiss. Because if this goes to trial, the way it reads, it's rather overwhelming for anyone to be able to fight it on the facts themselves.
So they're basically saying, you know, there's so much there, it's overwhelming, as she stated. You know, you can't just fight it. There's so many facts. I don't know if this has clips in it. Let's see, does it? No, it doesn't have clips in it. They may talk about the statements, but let's just see, because I'm curious about this one. But this purports to talk about the Republican reactions to the Trump indictment.
Catherine, I've got two questions for you. The first is, what happens if you're just a regular old Joe and you have this kind of information? Legally, what happens to you? What's happening?
Well, as one example, I have contacts who work in the nuclear weapons capability arena. Let's say you have a nuclear document, it's on top of the photocopier. You walk away, you leave it there. Your clearance is gone. You are.
Jim, I'm going to take your question. Jim says, what does she mean if it goes to trial? It damn well better. I think what she means is she's holding out a possibility that somehow a lawyer actually convinces Trump to cop a plea, which we know he's not going to do, so it will go to trial.
Out the door. There are immediate consequences.
Let me ask you about a number of the president's defenders. Well, first of all, we should note the current president is under investigation by a special counsel. We don't know much about that, but Republicans have brought that up in defending the president. They've also brought up the case of Hillary Clinton. You've been looking at that. Give us a sense of the apples and oranges or apples and apples in comparison with what's on the table.
Well, what
here.
strikes me, John, in this indictment is I think the special counsel Jack Smith specifically charged willful retention of national defense information in an effort to sort of blunt criticism that these cases may be the same. If you go back to the summer of 2016, then FBI Director James Comey said that they found multiple email chains on Hillary Clinton's private server that she used for government business that contained highly classified information, including these special access programs that we just discussed. But in his view, it should not be charged because he didn't feel there was sufficient evidence of intent or willfulness. Critics would say that even just purchasing the server was an example of intent. And then finally, you have to look at just the scope of the information and also the timeline. But I think
But the difference with Hillary, though, is that her server was secure. It was never broken into, and she was never going around showing it to other people. And the odds are the items that they're referring to that were deleted were probably personal emails that she didn't want out there, because she had both her personal emails and her email as secretary on that server. So, nope, not even close to what Trump has done. Not a criminal thing. They're going to try to paint it as that on the Republican Party, but not even close, not even illegal.
this charging of willful retention really is by design.
Right. The facts of the case quite different.
Yes, the facts of the case are much different. Trump willfully took these documents. He knew exactly what he was doing. His legal counsel told him what he was doing. Now, interestingly, not all Republicans are supporting Trump. I mean, we know Chris Christie is not. But another one that's not is New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu. And I think we can just watch the video.
That
So
he
hang
would
on.
not be a candidate for president. Welcome, Governor. Thank you for being with us. You've taken a look at the indictment. Do you think that the current frontrunner of the Republican nomination should be given the responsibility to handle the most sensitive national security documents again with re-election?
Well, I guess we're going to find out. Yeah, I mean, look, if half of what they say they can prove is provable, then he's got a real problem on our hands, and it's self-inflicted. Let's remember that. This is he had every chance in the world to hand all those files and documents.
Okay. Interestingly, he agrees with Bill Barr. He said if just half of it, not the whole thing, just a half, is true, that's good enough to say that he should not be president again.
Back, he did just the opposite. He bragged about keeping him. So this is very self-inflicted. I mean, I guess we'll find out of the 37 or whatever charges there are, how many he's potentially found guilty on. So we'll see where it goes and what's disqualifying and not. But I think, you know, that last segment you had was really telling. It's just another example that he could win the nomination, but mathematically cannot win in November of 24, which is why the Republican Party needs to look to another candidate, and they've got a lot of great options before him.
This seems to provide an opportunity for them to not look to another candidate because they are rallying around him. I want to read you something from the National Review, which wrote about this indictment. It is impossible to read the indictment against Trump in the Mar-a-Lago document case and not be appalled by it. The way he handled classified documents as an ex-president and responded to the attempt by federal authorities to reclaim them. You seem to share that view, but many, the majority in your party and the majority of public officials.
Now that's interesting too. That is the National Review, and I know that many of you know that the National Review, and good evening TV2 Live, welcome to the broadcast. I know that many of you know that the National Review is a GOP publication. So even they are saying it's impossible to support Trump given what he's done. That is tantamount to how serious these charges are.
Have exactly the opposite view.
Yeah, so this is the problem that the Department of Justice has. And whether you want to agree with it or not doesn't matter. The reality is a lot of people are looking at that kind of cloud that sits over the DOJ and says there has been a little too much politics in that department over the past couple of years. There's been a lot of allegations of political handling. So they have the responsibility to say, look, this is different. This is much more severe. And I think they have to do that.
Let me ask you this, Governor. But first of all, the Department of Justice is investigating the sitting president. There's a special counsel. So the same standard is applied to him. And isn't it not the Department of Justice that's applying a different standard, but the politicians who are the same ones in some cases, Kevin McCarthy and others, who are applying a standard to Donald Trump that they did not apply to others, Hillary Clinton being the primary one.
Yeah, but you can't equivocate. Yeah, if I may, you can't equivocate the two, right? So you have folks on equate the two. Sorry, but look, those are politicians. They're on the Republican side for the most part. They're going to defend a political position. The DOJ has a responsibility to be above it all, and should be, and historically has been, but recently has not been. And so the average American watches this. You and I are in the weeds, right? We're talking about this issue all the time over the last 48 hours. The average American is looking at this thing for 90 seconds. And they're saying, wait a minute, they found files over there. They found a server in Clinton's bathtub over there. They found files over here. What's the difference? And there is a very clear difference. There's a huge difference. But it has to be explained to the American people.
But I mean, Governor, that's like saying New York and New Hampshire are the same because they have the word new in their titles. I mean, there are great differences in terms of obstruction of justice in the cases of, say, President Biden and the case of President Trump, former President Trump. So let me ask you, but we're going to run out of time, unfortunately. So hold on. We're going to get you on the other side of the half hour, and we'll come back to this. We're going to take a break.
So he wasn't completely on our side, but, you know, he wasn't definitely supportive of Trump. We could watch more of that. I mean, but it seems like he's going to delve into more of his Republican view. So Nick had mentioned the Pence campaign ad. Mike Pence campaign ad.
The first person to survive Alzheimer's disease is out there. And the
morning. And then also today, former Vice President Mike Pence, formally getting into the race, has already filed his paperwork, but making his announcement today in the form of a video launch, a video statement. Here's some of what the former Vice President said in that announcement.
The land of opportunity, beacon of democracy, the shining city on the hill, land of the free, home of the brave, the United States of America. As a son of the heartland, grandson of an Irish immigrant, those aren't just words. My family has lived the American dream. I had the great honor to serve in Congress, as governor, and as your vice president. And I'll always be proud of the progress we made together for a stronger, more prosperous America. But today, our country's in a lot of trouble. President Joe Biden and the radical left have weakened America at home and abroad. The American dream is being crushed under runaway inflation. Wages are dropping. Recession is looming. Our southern border is under siege, and the enemies of freedom are on the march around the world. And worse still, timeless American values are under assault as never before. We're better than this. We can turn this country around, but different times call for different leadership. Today, our party and our country need a leader that will appeal, as Lincoln said, to the better angels of our nature. I have long believed to whom much is given.
We need the Democrat Party, not this dude.
My family and I have been blessed beyond measure with opportunities to serve this nation, and it'd be easy to stay on the sidelines. But that's not how I was raised. That's why today, before God and my family, I'm announcing I'm running for President of the United States. We can bring this country back. We can defend our nation and secure our border. We can revive our economy and put our nation back on a path to a balanced budget, defend our liberties, and give America a new beginning for life. President Reagan described us as a shining city on the hill. And above all, he called on Americans to renew optimism and believe in themselves again, to believe in each other.
Exactly, Wes
Every time our
Webb. Look
nation
how
has
shiny
produced
and white we are in his
called upon
ad.
this country to do hard things. The American people have always risen to the challenge, and we will again. We just need government as good as our people to do it. I believe in the American
Which is why we
people.
need to keep Joe
Not if
Biden.
God is not done with America yet, and together we can bring this country back. And the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I think the funniest thing about his announcement, and I don't think that was the one you wanted, Nick Rich. I think the funniest thing about his announcement is that he has to say before God, you know, like God didn't know that he was going to announce already. I just think that's funny. It's just strange. I had to declare I was going to run before God. God didn't know I was going to run. That's the way I hear that when he says it. It just sounds strange to me. Yeah, that wasn't the one you wanted. Sorry. That doesn't surprise me, Nick Rich, though. You know, it's not uncommon for a candidate to have multiple ads out there. The one that you might have seen in your locality be different from the one that they're pushing nationally. This is the interesting thing. The difference between Republicans and Americans in general. If convicted over classified documents, should Trump be able to be president? Likely GOP primary voters, 80% say yes, 20% say no. Americans overall, it's 43 yes, 57% no. And then this one, 38% of GOP voters, 69% of Americans overall think a national security risk if Trump kept nuclear military documents. Likely GOP voters think 76% of them think an indictment was politically motivated. 12% think it was a security risk, and 12% think it was both politically motivated and a security risk. %61% say that the charges will not change their views about Trump. Only 7% think it changes it for the worse, and 18% think it depends, obviously, on the outcome. 14% think it makes them more likely to support him. Those are the people who come to the rallies, the 14%. This video talks about polling continues to show us they can nominate him, but he may be set up to lose again in the general election. And Ed O'Keefe says former President Trump's chances in the 2024 primary and explains Democrats remain hopeful that if it is Trump, they can still win this. Yeah, that's true. There were 21 top secret documents laid out in the 37-count indictment against former President Trump. He remains the front runner. And they see that it's likely that people will vote for Biden even though he's not their first choice, because the alternative is worse since Trump is likely to win the primary. Okay, we already looked at that video. And this guy has no chance of being the nominee unless the others all have something befall them. But he might be interesting to listen to just to see what he says, because he's talking about COVID pandemic. So let's just see what he had to say. In the middle of that, pull that back. Let's see
During
what
the
he talks about.
COVID pandemic, in the toughest part of it, you talked about masks, and you said that everybody needed to be empathetic towards those who might wear it. You said, dial up your empathy and your understanding. Are there other issues in the world you see today in domestic politics where you would apply that same guidance for people?
Well, when we talk about the best of America, growing up in a small town, the best of America is when neighbors help neighbors. When a farmer in North Dakota falls ill, the neighbors rally around, whether it's to get the crop planted or the crop harvested. You know, every spring in Western North Dakota in the Badlands, when it's time for spring branding and Roundup, the neighbors show up. They couldn't get the work done if they weren't neighbors helping neighbors. And we need to get back to that. And I think part of what, you know, our real enemies, you know, when we talk about China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, they love it when we're fighting with each other. They love it when we're just, you know, throwing insults back and forth at each other. But we have to approach, and one of the bywords we have in our administration is curiosity. Curiosity to understand where the other person is coming from. And with that, it also, I know America has built its economy around innovation. And we have the Biden administration completely focused on regulating our industries out of business, as opposed to focusing on innovation. And the way you get to innovation is you get there through curiosity and understanding that everybody can contribute to the conversation.
Listening to that dude just for that 1 minute, I would say the only way he has any possibility of being on the GOP ticket is if he is the vice presidential candidate, because somehow Pence ends up being the presidential candidate, something of that nature. But I do not see him being a presidential candidate. He's too nice of a guy to win a GOP primary. Bought and paid for by big oil? Probably. So he was asked about his handling of documents. He says, when president and when we leave office, we'll follow every rule related to handling classified documents. Of course you will. We saw this video earlier. Governor Chris Sununu tells everybody to come out in concert. So he's basically telling everybody to acknowledge the seriousness of the indictment, and that even if half of it is true, Trump shouldn't be supported. Trump faces federal indictment. A few 2024 Republican candidates are publicly speaking out against the former president. So he had something to say. He said that if Trump wins, he's so comfortable with twisting the levers of democracy in his favor that he would just do whatever he wanted. Costa report says that Trump might have grabbed these documents driven by grievance with former Joint Chiefs Staff Mark Milley and growing public profile. Trump pledges to stay in the election even if he's convicted. Yep, we saw that. That's the poll that we saw earlier. Okay, that was the preview for Face the Nation. The daily GOP talking point is if half of what the indictment says is true, he shouldn't be president. So that was that. And those are all the promos for this show. They're all reaching for that one dead tree branch hanging over the raging river of American disapproval of the GOP. Yep. This is in the Detroit Free Press. Canadian wildfires aren't actual cause of Michigan's hazy skies, poor air quality, says Mike Thompson, published June 8th. He says, I woke up today to a beautiful late spring day in southeast Michigan, clear skies, cool temps, the trees and flowers at perfect summer growth, but I would be crazy to walk out into this day without a good mask. He cites the air quality index with enough fine particles to gunk up his lungs, and said that even inside his house, there was bad air quality and his eyes hurt. He asked, what's going on? Canadian wildfires are the proximal cause, spewing smoke into the atmosphere and covering a region from Wisconsin to my son's home in Boston, but it isn't the actual cause. The actual cause is global warming, the increase in temperatures that has brought average temperatures up by more than 2 degrees in Michigan and much more to the north where the fires are. Those temperatures are rarely average. They peak and roast those northern forests and bring home to Canada and the United States our failure to deal with global warming. With rising temperatures, we see more drought, drying lands and forests that are tender and dry and ready for the kind of outbursts that we're seeing now in Canada and Michigan. What's the actual cause of global warming? That's us. It's our carbon footprint from our breathing, eating, and warming our homes and driving to work. It's down to the public to change, we're told. What we need is strong, deliberate, consistent collective action by our public officials, not action to fund charging stations for electric cars one day and building new oil and gas pipelines the next day, the approach favored by President Biden and the U.S. Congress. So he says that we need the politicians to act. It isn't so much what we're doing as people, because some of us are doing really well. Some of us are not. But we need our politicians to act to get things going. He says this is lungs would attest. It's absurd. It's the dodge of political compromise when a monster is staring you down. He asks if we can see if the climate crisis is rapidly becoming bad or worse for our health and our children's health and our grandchildren's health than COVID-19. We need concerted national worldwide action. Sending firefighters to Canada is less than a Band-Aid, but it's exactly what we can expect from the current crop of public officials. He says they tell you to not go outside today, stay inside, call your public officials, scream at them, holler at them, rage at them until they get the idea that they don't get to sit on their hands and do nothing. And he says that you need to keep doing so your granddaughter or grandson doesn't have to stay inside their whole life. He does encourage people to take personal action, buying solar panels or electric cars, or at least buy an electric lawnmower instead of a gasoline mower. I actually have a mower that doesn't use either. I have one of the push mowers that uses just hand power. You can wait through our fire season and carry on stoically as our public officials expect you to do, so they can continue to ignore your health and sacrifice your future. But he doesn't suggest it. So that's his article. Also have an Environmental Defense Fund article about the effect of wildfires and climate change, excuse me. So it says climate change affects wildfires by exacerbating the hot, dry conditions that help these fires catch and spread. As climate change gets worse, we can expect the size, frequency, and severity of wildfires to increase. The average season is now 3 months longer than it was a few decades ago. It goes into detail what wildfires are, meaning they're unplanned fires, which means they're not controlled burns in forests and grasslands and other ecosystems that can start with a lightning strike or human activity. But climate change makes the environment more susceptible to burn. Removing more moisture from the soil, leaving the vegetation dry, drying out the trees and shrubs and grasses, and turning leaf litter and fallen branches into kindling. And it also causes more insects, and that can weaken or kill trees, which creates more dead trees, which can fuel fires. The snowpacks are shrinking and melting, and that makes the forest more flammable. Now, fire is not bad. Fire is a natural phenomenon that serves important ecological purposes of clearing dead and diseased plants from some forest. And there's good fire in the way of controlled burns. But a rapidly warming planet and short-sighted forest management practices and land use decisions that push development into the wilderness is contributing to more destructive wildfires. Yes, we do have a tendency to build more houses in places that we probably shouldn't be building them at all, and then we wonder why houses burn down, because we put them in places where they're going to burn down. These wildfires are devastating communities and ecosystems, and working together to fight these fires, curbing the greenhouse gas emissions that are warming our planet. And it goes into wildfires by the numbers. There's 100 or more additional days in the average wildfire season. 11 of the 20 largest California wildfires on record since 2018. $80+ billion from 2017 to 2021. And how can we prevent the wildfires? We don't need to prevent every wildfire, but we do need to control climate change. The National Interagency Fire Center in the U.S. publishes guides on how to prevent wildfires. And reducing greenhouse gas emissions is crucial. We need to break the dependence on oil and gas. We need to slash methane emissions. And stop tropical deforestation. Wildfires happen on every continent except Antarctica, and climate change is increasing wildfire risk. NASA has a map showing fires, including wildfires, that are observed by satellites. How do wildfires harm air quality, and how can we protect ourselves? Should be expandable. Air pollution from wildfires can travel thousands of miles. The heat from these larger fires is sending smoke, black carbon, nitrogen oxides, and hydrocarbons into the atmosphere, where they can form with other harmful pollutants such as ozone. Often the larger fires have enough heat and upward momentum to send their plumes into the free troposphere above the ground level of air, where there are fewer removal pathways and stronger upper level winds. This is why they can travel such long distances. So this is a good resource, the Environmental Defense Fund. This is a map of current wildfires. Oh no. It says it's initializing the map. So what does the colors mean? I'm not sure what the colors mean. See if I can. Okay, green is good, yellow is moderate. Orange is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Red is unhealthy. Purple is very unhealthy and brown is hazardous, and white means no data. So it looks like in Florida, the bad stuff, sort of bad stuff is there. And looks like the worst, where's the worst stuff? The unhealthy stuff is up here in the red. And it seems like there's some oranges and some reds. Certain part of Michigan. But you wouldn't want to be in these areas up here, where it's up here in Canada where it's red. So interesting. So is Nick Rich still here? I don't know if Nick Rich is still here or if he's going to tune in later. I don't know if Nikki is still here. Is he still here? What happened to all the women in the chat? I don't know. Maybe they just are sitting back, just, watching and not talking. We still got 5 people on YouTube and 1 on Twitch. I don't know. I do know that there were some activities going on with one of them. She may still be working on that. I don't know. Anyway, if Nick Rich is still here, we have SpaceX targeting Monday, June 12th at 3:10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7:10 UTC or 7:10 a.m. GMT for those over in Europe. For those of you who are in Pacific Time, that would be 10 minutes after midnight tonight. For a Falcon 9 launch of 53 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 40 in Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. If they don't do it at that time, they could do it at 4:52 a.m. Eastern, 8:52 UTC, 8:52 a.m. GMT in the morning. Or they could do it Tuesday at 2:45 in the morning, 6:45 UTC, or 4:26 a.m. in the morning, 8:26. So we'll see what happens with that. The first stage booster supporting this mission previously launched SES-22. That's a communications satellite. iSpace's Akuto R1 mission. That was the Japanese moon mission that was unsuccessful. Hispasat Amazonius Nexus, also a communications satellite. CRS-27, that's a crew resupplied mission to the ISS, and 4 Starlink missions. Following stage separation, the first stage will land on the Just Read the Instructions drone ship stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. So everybody that's local to Cape Canaveral will not hear a sonic boom Only way you'll hear a sonic boom is if you actually happen to be out at sea, which you really shouldn't be anywhere near the SpaceX drone ship. So that could go early tomorrow morning. Also, if we go back, also tomorrow, on June 12th, the Transporter 8 mission from low Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 4E, SLC 4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. It's a 57-minute launch window opening at 2:19 p.m. Pacific time. That would be 5:19 p.m. Eastern time, or 21:19 UTC, which is 9:19 p.m. GMT. There's a backup opportunity on Tuesday, June 13th at the same window. This first stage booster supporting this mission previously launched NROL 87 and NROL 85, both of which are spy satellites for the Space Force. The Sarah 1, not sure what that is, the SWOT, and 4 Starlink missions. Following stage separation, Falcon 9 will land at Landing Zone 4 at Vandenberg Space Force Base. So those of you who are close enough to Vandenberg Space Force Base will get to hear a sonic boom when that lands. Transporter 8 is SpaceX's 8th dedicated small sat ride-share mission. There are to be 72 payloads on this flight, including CubeSats, microsats, a re-entry capsule, and orbital transfer vehicles carrying spacecraft to be deployed at a later time. So when they have 72 payloads on this one, it's going to be a long webcast if they show you all the payloads being deployed. So that's what's happening in space in the next few days. I don't know if we have any others that are supposed to happen. Let's see. Between now and the 18th. Friday the 16th, there is a Ariane space launch in French New Guinea, but I don't know how many of you care about that. That's at 7:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which would be 4:01 p.m. Pacific. So if you are interested in that, look up Ariane Space. That's spelled A-R-I-A-N-E. But the next launch coming to Cape Canaveral will be after next week's show, so we'll wait till next week's show to talk about it. But other than that, the Chinese might launch one on Thursday. And that's it for launches this week. So usually at the end of the show, we have a cute animals segment. I don't know if I can make that bigger because this is a little video short. See if I can make it a little bigger. So you had a couple of cute animals for the end of the show. We got a few more minutes. Y'all have a good time tonight? We've been at this almost 2 hours. And yeah, I don't know where everybody is tonight. I do know that Andrea was going to do her talk show, her audio talk show. So she's recording that more than likely right now if she didn't show up. So that's what's going on. I'm sure we just have a low audience tonight. It happens that way sometimes. Did we talk about the indictments? Yes, we did at the beginning of the show. Mm-hmm. No rapid unscheduled disassembly. Yes, good. No, don't wanted that, Nick. So you are here. That's good. Okay. Well, I don't know about you all, but I'm ready to go. I'm tired. I think I would rather put more into it next week than just stick around. So I hope you had a good time with the show. I hope to see you all here again next week on Freedom, Speech, and You. Any final thoughts? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. I think it's a wrap today, folks. Have a good one. See you in a week. Thank you for coming. I appreciate each and every one of you that are here. And you make this special, okay? Wow, you're still here. That proves how special you are. Have a great evening. See you next week on Freedom, Speech, and You. Thanks all. Bye.